The history of modern economics is a cunning plot that can match the best of historical novels. The running storyline is a man's search for wealth and prosperity and the economic model that best serves the needs of the common man. The main character is Adam Smith, a child of Scottish Enlightenment, and the philosophy he represents, the self-regulating system of natural liberty and competition. Our hero has gone through untold triumphs and tragedies in the unfolding over 200 years of economic history. Sometimes he appears lifeless following the blows of his opponents, but he always recovers. The plot begins in dramatic fashion in 1776, when a London publisher printed Adam Smith's monumental work, The Wealth of Nations, the intellectual shot heard around the world. Smith's captivating philosophy of natural liberty and the invisible hand rapidly became the central character of modern economics, as the Industrial Revolution and political liberty exploded on the scene, and created the new era of wealth and economic growth over the next 2 centuries. The enlightened Scottish model of prosperity quickly spread through France, America, and the rest of the Western world. Yet optimistic world of Adam Smith was almost immediately challenged by Robert Malthus and David Ricardo, 2 serious scholars who propounded the gloomy doctrine of the iron law of subsistence wages and permanent misery of the working class. These pessimistic forecasts were followed by the appearance of John Stuart Mill, who vacillated between liberty and socialism as utopian communitarianism reached its zenith of popularity. Then, in the middle of the 19th century Industrial Revolution, Karl Marx suddenly strode onto the scene with exploitation and alienation among industrial workers plunged economics into a new dark age. The rise of socialism would be the biggest challenge Smithian capitalism would face over the next century. Fortunately, a new light appeared to counter the dark forces of social engineering. This marginal revolution gave new life to our main character, the invisible hand model of Adam Smith. It came from 3 sources in the early 1870s, from Karl Menger in Austria, Leon Walras in Switzerland, and William Stanley Jevons in England. Eugene Bohm-Bawerk, a colleague of Menger, was the first economist to take on Marx with devastating critique of his labor theory and value and exploitation. Through the textbooks of Alfred Marshall in England and Frank Taussig and Irving Fisher in the United States, the Smithian model of modern economics was rebuilt. Thus resuscitated, it made an effective counterattack on the growing socialist movement. Scientific economics had come of age. Nevertheless, the late 19th century was the era of big business and the giant trust of Carnegie and Rockefeller. Institutionalists like Thorstein Veblen swayed the crowds of cynics with their warnings of conspicuous consumption and monopoly power, while German socialist Max Weber wrote the religious underpinnings of the iron cage of capitalism. But the biggest blow to Adam Smith's world of free market capitalism came with the 1929 crash and the Great Depression of the 1930s. Neoclassical economists comprehended the nuances of supply and demand but failed to grasp the mysteries of the money nexus, the vital connection between microeconomy and the macroeconomy. The great Yale professor Irving Fisher made a bold attempt at solving the missing link between micro and macro in the early 20th century. The Austrian Ludwig von Walras, relying on the profound work of Swede Wixel, finally bridged the gap in his theory of money and credit. But the Mises-Wixel theories didn't take hold in academia or the halls of government, and by the early 1930s, banks collapsed, business failed, and millions of workers begged for a living wage as governments around the globe struggled to overcome the decade-long financial nightmare. Who would save capitalism? The battle lines were drawn between the classical economists who defended the policies of laissez-faire and the Marxists and socialists who demanded a revolutionary overthrow of the old order. Amid the global intellectual conflict appeared John Maynard Keynes, the economics savior. This Cambridge Don proposed a new, sophisticated model based on a financial instability hypothesis inherent to the capitalist system. This new economics required government intervention in the monetary and fiscal arena to stabilize the market economy. Yet, unlike its chief rival, Marxism, the Keynesian model did not require nationalization or micro-control of supply and demand. The classical modern, a thrift, balanced budgets, low taxes, and gold standard was regulated to periods of full employment, while the Keynesian prescription of consumer demand, deficit spending, progressive taxation, and fiat money played out during periods of economic recession. It was viewed as ideal compromise, and soon college instructors, their head buried in popular new textbooks by MIT wunderkind Paul Samuelson, were teaching students strange new tools: the multiplier, the marginal propensity to consume, the paradox of thrift, aggregate demand. Keynesian economics reflected the high tide of macroeconomic theorizing and mathematical modeling.